So in this video, we're going to share with you a rotator cuff and shoulder prehab strengthening sequence that utilizes resistance bands. I have found this super useful for the health of my shoulders and elbows and wrists even, especially as it relates to handstand practice and acro. So I do this before almost every handstand practice, and I found it to be super useful for me. So you'll need some resistance bands. They come in different tensions. There's also different styles of these. This green one would be a lighter one that I'm going to use for smaller muscle groups. I also have this thicker black band. You can look up the different ratings of tension and resistance for these on any of these websites. TheraBand makes these ones. So I'm going to take you through a few different things and spend as much time on them as you need. I really go for a feeling that the muscle is kind of fatigued. It's not like you're lifting a heavy weight. We're going for kind of a gentle burning feeling in the muscle before we're done with it. So the first one that we're going to do is going to be rotator cuff strengthening. I have this band tied to our pair of stall bars. But you can also tie the band around a doorknob or any other thing that's like fairly fixed. You can even have someone hold onto the other end of it if you have a partner with you. So the first one that we work on that I always do is going to be external rotations. So you would hold the band pretty firm. I like to wrap it around my hand. And then keeping your elbow fairly close to your side, you can bring the band out. So we're trying not to turn the torso, we're trying not to let the tension change our posture. And you just go for something like 8 to 20 even. These are generally pretty high rep, low power sort of movements. You'll go until you feel like kind of some burning in the muscle. After you do that one, you'll go to the other arm, so you'll turn around and do just as many. And then I go to internal rotation. So I would have the hand that's closest to the bar. I would make sure that I find some level of tension. So if it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything, I'm probably not doing much. So I hold the band in a way that gives me some level of resistance, and then I go for that same sort of movement. I keep my elbow sort of close to my side, trying not to let my elbow move around as I do this, trying not to let the torso tilt. So you go for as many as it takes to feel it. And yeah, this would be mainly working the subscap. So the subscap is the main internal rotator of the shoulder. So I like to revisit the rotations in a different position. So we can bring the arm into a 90-90 position. That's going to be with your elbow about the height of the shoulder. And when we're facing the point that the band is attached onto, we'll be pulling the band away. So trying to imagine like your upper arm is in a tube and you're trying not to touch the edges of that tube. You would again go for as many as it takes to kind of find that gentle burning in the rotator cuff muscles. And then you would switch sides, and then eventually you would switch to your internal rotations. So you would now face away from the point that the band is tied onto, and you would do the same sort of rotation, now bringing the hand down in front. So for these next 4 exercises, we're going to be the way I think of this is we're moving our arms in each direction. It's going to be bilateral, meaning we're using both arms at the same time. And we're going to work the arms in the frontal plane. We're going to be pulling the arms back behind us. We're going to be bringing the arms downwards. And then we're going to also be pulling the arms upwards. For these, I use a slightly heavier band. You might be fine sticking with the same thing, but I switch over to this black band, just because we're using bigger muscle groups now, it'll take just a little bit more resistance to really find that tension that helps prepare our muscles. And the first one that I work with is a straight armed row. So we get the band to be about even. You can hold at you can play with the distance away from the wall. We want to be able to fully bring the arms back. So here I feel that's a little bit too hard. So I can back my hands up a bit. I wrap it around so I don't have to spend a lot of energy on gripping. I'll try to find a strong posture, kind of like my handstand body. And then I'll work on bringing the arms back, keeping the elbows straight the whole time. And whenever you feel like you've reached enough of them that it's pretty challenging or you're starting to feel fatigued, you'll keep the arms at the end range, and then it's nice to do little circles just to kind of play with the edges. So you can do like 10 circles each direction. It doesn't need to be super specific. Nothing's gonna happen bad if you do slightly less or slightly more. From there, we'll switch over to the opposite. So that's gonna be the band is anchored behind us. We're wrapping our hands in the same sort of way. And then we're bringing the arms out in front. So you can try to find that same neutral pelvic tilt. The ribs kind of pulled a little bit down. We don't want to be leaning too much into this. But you'll go for that same sort of feeling. Let's imagine that I've got in there. I'm going to reach the arms out in front. I'm going to try to protract my shoulder blades so I let them slide apart on my back. And then find little rotations. Go for like 10 each direction. And then you can let it rest. Take as much time in between each of these as you need. You don't need a ton of time, but give your muscles like a few moments before you switch to the next exercise. So for our last two exercises, we're going to move those last two directions. I've now anchored the band above. So this one can be a little bit tricky to find something that fits this perfectly. So you might need to get creative finding what you can anchor it onto. If you're not able to do this one, there's probably some alternatives that we could talk about, so message me if you need. So I anchored the band in. I'm going to get a fairly equal grip on each side, again wrapping the hands. Find that level of tension that feels like it's right for you. So if I grab too much, I can't really get my arms down. If I'm all the way down here, this doesn't really feel like much. And then bringing the arms down by your side, try to pull the shoulder blades down your back, and then let the arms come back up. So you'll just go in that same way that we've been working so far, of something like 15 to 20 reps. Whenever you've reached that level of nice burning in the muscle, you can play with little circles at the bottom in both directions, 10 to 20. And then from there, we can move to the last exercise. I do this one last because I feel that this one is the most relevant to handstand. So, or it's the, at least this position is the most similar to the handstand. So for this one, I'm going to stand on the band. I'll again find that level of resistance that feels about right. The more you do these, the quicker you're able to set it up for yourself. And I play with bringing the arms overhead. So right there, I felt that was a little bit too much resistance, so I give it a little bit more slack. Yeah, and something like that. So in this one, I'm going to be trying to pull my ribs down, and I'm going to try to bring my arms up to cover my neck. So that's going to be getting towards my handstand position. So similarly, as I do this one, I personally will go tailbone kind of down, ribs a bit down as I move through this one. You can stop with the arms out to the side and do little circles. You can also bring the arms overhead and finish with some shrugs, keeping the elbows straight, and little circles at the end. So yeah, this sequence I originally saw in a video on the internet by Dave Durante, a former Olympic gymnast. I've added a few things, I've taken out a few things. I've worked with a lot of different professional hand balancers, and almost everyone does some version of these shoulder prehab exercises. So I think they're pretty proven to be effective even at the highest levels, so I would definitely recommend integrating it into your practice.